We are back with another dialogue spotlight, and this time, we are going to be going over all the Left 4 Dead 2 campaigns. Left 4 Dead 1 has a lot of golden interactions that are easy to miss on a first playthrough, and Left 4 Dead 2 is no different. I am not exaggerating when I say that this game has literally hundreds of voice lines, and picking out the best ones was certainly a challenge, but it was also a lot of fun, and I'm very happy to share my findings with you all. Same ground rules apply, so without wasting any more time, let's get started. Dead Center is still my favorite campaign in the Left 4 Dead franchise. Most of it is just nostalgia probably, but I will never get tired of playing this campaign. One of the best parts about Dead Center is the dialogue. This campaign has a ton of funny dialogue interactions. Let's start with the intro. At the start of this campaign, after shouting at the helicopter, Nick will sometimes give his heartfelt and polite greetings to Ellis and Rochelle.
Hey, loud girl, hayseed, tons of fun. This building is on fire. Grab a weapon and let's get the hell out of here.
I am not loud.
Nick and Coach will sometimes have this back and forth.
Hey, come back, I'm here. There's still someone down here.
There are 3 other people here, son.
Oh, good. You can count. I bet they'll come back now.
After going downstairs, the survivors walk into a room with a CETA map, and after looking it over, Ellis will sometimes say this.
Check out all them X's, man. Looks like New Orleans is the last city standing.
Later on, the survivors arrive at an elevator and properly introduce themselves. This comes with a lot of hilarious dialogue interactions.
Name's Nick. From the looks of you 3, I'm the only one here who knows how to fire a weapon.
I have folks call me Ellis, and I learned how to shoot a gun before I learned how to walk. White suit Nick.
My name's Coach, and I know how to shoot a gun.
My name's Rochelle. Give me a break. It's the first time I've shot a gun.
Turns out Ellis encountered the infected prior to the events of Dead Center, and we know this because of this voice line.
Folks call me Ellis. I run an auto shop around here. Instead of evacuating, I armored up a truck to drive myself out of here. Built that thing to be zombie-proof. Well, it turns out it was only 99% zombie-proof. Last 1% tore that truck to shit.
This is confusing because just like all the other survivors, Ellis will act surprised when he sees the infected for the first time. But according to Ellis, he has already seen the infected. It's also important to keep in mind that Ellis specifically states that the zombies tore apart his truck, meaning it was a very up-close and dangerous experience, which makes all these voice lines all the more confusing. This is worth talking about in a future video, but for now we have a lot more dialogue interactions to go through. Chapter 1 of Dead Center is unique when compared to the other campaigns, mainly because for the first half of this chapter, the survivors are limited to pistols and melee weapons. If you're playing as Nick, and pick up a firearm of any kind, Nick will sometimes say this.
Whacking things in the head was fun, but I do love guns.
Nick also has this line that sheds some light on his troubled backstory.
If my friends ever saw me using a cop's gun...
Now, let's move on to Chapter 2. Here's a fun fact for those who may not know. Twitter exists in the Left 4 Dead universe, and we know this because of this voice line from Rochelle.
Oh, I'm glad I can't tweet, because I could never fit today in 140 characters.
Now, let's move on to the gun store. If you pick up a weapon while playing as Nick, sometimes he'll say this.
I'm not legally allowed to own a gun. Hope everybody's okay with that.
Nick clearly has a criminal history. The severity of those crimes are left to speculation, but it's easily one of the best parts about his character. Here's another dialogue exchange that tells us a bit about Nick's life before the apocalypse. If Nick grabs a baseball bat, sometimes he'll have this back and forth with Coach.
This brings back some good memories.
You play ball, Nick?
Nope. Bouncer at a club.
After grabbing their weapons and settling down, a voice is heard over the intercom. This man's name is Whitaker, and he also owns the gun store the survivors are in now. Sometimes Whitaker will have this exchange with the survivors.
I'm guessing you 4 would be headed to the evacuation center at the mall. I also know the road is blocked, but I can clear it for you in exchange for you running over to the store next door and picking me up some colas.
Do you want pork rinds with that?
So let me get this straight. We get you your shit, and you'll help us get to the mall, right? Okay. You screw us, and I will kill you with your own gun.
You could try. I own a lot of guns, son.
Here's another fun fact. We don't know a lot about Whitaker's character, but what we do know is that he's 60 years old, and we know that because of this voice line.
I've been on this world 60 years, ma'am, and I've weaseled nothing from nobody. You got my word as a gentleman.
And after dropping off the cola, sometimes Rochelle will say this.
Shit, I think I accidentally grabbed Diet Cola. We should go. Hey, thanks, Whitaker!
Before we move on to Chapter 3, here's another fun fact. Whitaker is voiced by Dayton Callie, who also plays Wayne Unser from Sons of Anarchy, Corner Hooks from Halloween 2, and Judge Daniel Dolan from Law & Order SVU. Now, let's move on to the mall. Before you even leave the safe room, Coach will sometimes say this.
Keep an eye out for the evac center. Also the food court. I am starving. If I see a zombie running at me with a sample tray, I ain't shooting it.
Here's a funny voice line from Rochelle.
I hear a hunt. Coach, is that your stomach?
While walking through the mall, you can find many posters displaying Jimmy Gibbs and his stock car. Upon seeing this, the survivors will sometimes have this back and forth.
Who the hell is Jimmy Gibbs Jr.?
Only the best stock car racer who ever lived, Nick. Guess you don't read much history.
Really? Because he looks like an asshole.
Now you hold on 1 second. You've been making jokes about Savannah all day and I've held my tongue. But you do not belittle Jimmy Gibbs Jr. That man is the pride of Georgia.
Once you reach Chapter 4, it's revealed that the mall is abandoned, and Nick will sometimes say this before you reach the elevator.
Okay, so the evac station's abandoned, and we're at the center of a zombie-filled building. On the bright side, we're all probably gonna die.
Before we move on, I wanted to share these voice lines I found for Rochelle. I swear these were cut from the game because I personally never heard them before. I assumed that these voice lines were going to be used after Rochelle kills a common infected with a Tier 1 or Tier 2 weapon.
Boom! Okay, killing is wrong, but killing zombies is actually pretty badass. Okay, I still don't like guns, but that was a little awesome.
You'd be surprised just how much dialogue is stuffed into Dead Center. It's one of the standout features of this campaign without a doubt. We still have 5 more campaigns to go, so let's move on to the passing. I said it before and I'll say it again, the passing has, in my opinion, the best dialogue of any campaign in Left 4 Dead 2. With that said, I'm going to try and keep this segment shorter than the other ones, mainly because I already did 2 videos going over the dialogue in this campaign. Now, let's move on to our first dialogue interaction. Let's start with the wedding, which has easily become one of my favorite segments in Left 4 Dead 2, mostly because of the very funny dialogue interactions. For example, Ellis will say this when he sees the bride.
You know what? This got me thinking. I should totally marry that girl.
And if Ellis is the one to disturb the bride, sometimes he'll say this.
Oh man, I changed my mind. I do not want to get married.
Once you reach the safe room, Nick and Coach will sometimes have this back and forth.
I am not looking forward to this Under the River tour.
Man, Nick, you gotta find a way to cheer your ass up. We ain't got much to look forward to.
Okay, good point. You know what? I am looking forward to punching that greasebag biker in the mouth.
There you go, Nick. Stay positive. Maybe you'll knock all his teeth out.
Nick will sometimes say this once you reach the Under the River tour.
$5 goddamn for an Under the River tour? Well played, Rayford. Well played.
Coach and Ellis will sometimes have this funny interaction.
All this running we been doing? I bet I lost, 5 pounds?
Yeah, well, maybe if we find a nice open stretch, we slow down a little bit, you can jog right alongside. Like in that boxing movie.
And before we move on, here's one more exchange between Ellis and Francis.
Man, nice ride. That really Jimmy Gibbs' car?
Yeah, you got that right.
That's amazing. You mean this car used to belong to the taco dog?
Yeah, I know. Wait a minute, what'd you say? Jimmy Gibbs Jr. was a legend.
I wonder whatever happened to that dog. Hope he's okay.
Can we not talk about dogs?
Hello, morons. I think we have a bridge to lower.
When it comes to funny and interesting dialogue interactions, this campaign is head and shoulders above the rest in my opinion. Like I said earlier, I already did 2 videos going over the dialogue in this campaign, so be sure to check those out if you haven't already. For now, we're going to move on to our next campaign. Dark Carnival is still one of my favorite Left 4 Dead campaigns, and when it comes to dialogue, we have a lot to cover. Let's start with the beginning of Chapter 1. Sometimes Ellis will give his heartfelt goodbye to Jimmy Gibbs' stock car.
Well, it's in the way I saw it. But I'm sorry I'm gonna have to leave you here. Thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. I love you.
After walking up the road, the survivors decide to head towards the Whispering Oaks amusement park. During the trip, searchlights can be seen in the distance, and sometimes you'll get this funny line from Nick.
Great. Following shiny lights in the sky. We're like freaking cats in a laser pointer.
Once you reach the motel, you find a pile of charred bodies in the pool, and sometimes Nick and Ellis will say this.
Those people sucked at high diving.
Look at those poor people. All they wanted to do is go for a swim.
Once you reach the safe room, Coach and Ellis will then start fanboying over the Midnight Riders, and sometimes Rochelle will say this in response.
The Midnight Riders. So they ride midnight? Or they ride at midnight? I don't know. I hate classic rock.
While walking through the carnival, Nick will sometimes say this.
The boardwalk still smells like popcorn, and the back alley still stinks like piss.
Once you reach the carousel, the survivors come to a horrifying realization. The carousel has a height requirement. Nick and Coach will then make fun of Ellis, and it's one of the best dialogue interactions in this campaign.
You gotta be this tall to get in here, Ellis. Sorry, buddy. You'll be missed.
You must be this tall to ride. Sorry, Ellis. It's been real, man.
Ha ha ha.
Once you reach the Tunnel of Love, Nick and Coach will sometimes have this back and forth.
Well, looks like we're going through the Tunnel of Love, people. Stay close to me.
I think we should clarify what constitutes close.
While fighting through the Tunnel of Love, you'll sometimes hear these rare voice lines between Rochelle, Nick, and Ellis.
Into the maintenance tunnel of love.
The catwalk of love.
Into the Swan Maintenance Room of Love.
Dark Carnival has one of my favorite finales in the entire game, but after digging through the audio files, it looks like there was a completely different plan for the finale involving a Midnight Rider tour bus. Here's a deleted voice line from Nick that confirms this.
There better be gas in that tour bus.
According to the audio files, this cut finale was also going to feature a complete stranger barricaded in a room. Here's a few voice lines where Nick can be heard talking to this individual.
I bet he's got a working shower in there, and he's not even using it. No one else is alive here, okay? There's got to be some kind of deal we can work out. Just name it. Anything. Always a stinking hippie. I swear to God, it always comes back to making a stinking hippie happy.
And at the end of this cut finale, this mystery man was going to be left behind, and we know this because of this voice line from Nick.
Just go. He isn't coming with us.
It sounds like an interesting finale, but I must admit, I'm happy Valve went with the concert instead. Before we move on to Swamp Fever, here's one more voice line from Nick.
Okay, we'll set off the pyrotechnics, but I am telling you right now, I am not going to air guitar.
Now, let's move on to our next campaign. Swamp Fever is a very solid campaign loaded with fun dialogue interactions. Let's start with this funny exchange between Ellis and Rochelle.
Well, y'all ask me, these swamp people got it all figured out, man. No cops, no rules.
No indoor plumbing.
They figured out how to stop going to the bathroom. Man, that is amazing. Oh. No, wait. Oh, I just got that. Shit, that's gross as hell.
The ferry ride is full of funny dialogue interactions. Let's go over a few of them.
Listen up, everybody. Be on the lookout for blood farmers. I'm serious.
What? Blood farmers? Boy, what in the hell are you talking about?
Duh. Farmers that don't grow crops, they grow people to eat.
Sorry I even asked.
Yeah, well, you'd be real sorry if we run into them.
Here's another funny back and forth between Nick and Ellis.
Hey, Nick, I used to have a suit just like yours.
What, you? Really?
Oh, yeah. When I had First Holy Communion in 2nd grade. I don't think it fits anymore, though.
All right. Look at you, youngin', giving Nick some shit right back.
Nick will also make fun of Ellis's southern accent, and Ellis will then respond in the most Ellis way possible.
Hey, Ellis, you like taters?
You know, I know what you're saying. And guess what? I do like taters.
Despite their constant arguing, Nick and Ellis do care for each other. Nick almost never shows his actual care or affection for Ellis, but if Rochelle and Coach get killed during a campaign, Nick will sometimes say this.
Hey, Ellis, you know that shit I was saying? I was just joking, right?
Once you walk past the parachutist in Chapter 2, Coach will sometimes say this.
Shit, why would you ever jump out of a plane?
And upon seeing the crashed airplane, Coach will then say this.
All right, now I understand why you would jump out of a plane.
Before you open the emergency door and start the event, Rochelle will sometimes say this.
Do you think the slides will activate?
Over the course of my dialogue spotlights and my campaign breakdowns, I never went over a Keith story. So before we move on to the finale, here is one of my favorite Keith stories from Ellis.
I ever tell you about the time Keith tried to deep fry turkey? 3rd-degree burns over 90% of his body. His doctor called up like other doctors to look at him because they'd never seen burns on top of existing burns.
Coach is a very humble and polite human being, but during the finale, he can sometimes lose his patience with Vergil. Here's an example.
Hey now, where you at?
We're at the big house.
How many of y'all is there?
Look, what difference does it make? Shit, man, 4 of us. Come pick us up.
Here's another funny detail. Despite being stuck in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, Nick is apparently still holding on to some money. Here is a back and forth between Nick and Vergil.
Now, how many of y'all is there?
4 of us. We have money if that helps.
Now, to be fair, it's entirely possible that Nick is lying, but I would find it very in character for Nick to be walking around the zombie apocalypse with thousands of dollars in his pockets for no good reason at all. Now, let's move on to our next campaign. Of all the campaigns in Left 4 Dead 2, Hard Rain has, in my opinion, the weakest collection of voice lines. Mainly because this campaign is 2 levels that somehow got stretched out into 5 chapters. However, just like with all my campaign breakdowns, there are some dialogue interactions that I missed. Let's start with this exchange between Rochelle and Nick.
Do we trust that guy to come back?
Well, I don't know, Nick. I learned to trust you.
Fair enough. But you're the first 3 people in the world I have ever trusted. Shit, I don't even trust myself.
At the start of this campaign, the survivors accidentally leave the gun bag on Vergil's boat, and sometimes the survivors will have this argument.
You didn't grab the gun bag?
Me? I told Nick to grab the guns.
Why didn't you grab them?
Look, I'm a generously proportioned man. Getting off a rocking boat takes concentration.
After walking across the street, the survivors find a gas station that has no gas, and sometimes Nick will shout this in anger.
I'm out of gas. You're out of gas. They're out of gas.
While walking through Chapter 1, the survivors see the early signs of a coming storm. The survivors will then say the following.
Oh, hell. Looks like a bad storm's coming.
Shit, it looks like it's really gonna storm.
Well, let's get this done before the storm.
Pathetic.
When the storm officially starts, Coach will sometimes have this to say.
First the plague, now the flood. I feel like I should be building an ark.
Chapters 2 and 3 of Hard Rain are full of witches, and sometimes Rochelle and Coach will comment on their constant crying.
What the hell do they got to cry about? We're the ones getting attacked.
Yeah, you want to cry? Let's give these bitches something to cry about.
During the elevator ride down to the cane field, Ellis and Rochelle will sometimes have this exchange.
Through the wheat field!
That's sugarcane row.
Thank you, Ellis. Very informative.
If Coach is at critical health while in the sugar mill, sometimes he'll say this.
I am not dying in a goddamn sugar mill.
Here's another neat voice line I found while digging through the files. During the finale of Hard Rain, the sign was apparently supposed to turn off at some point, similar to the finale of Crash Course.
Somebody get the sign going again!
When it comes to dialogue, this is the weakest campaign in my opinion. I tried to pick out the interesting ones, but I also don't want to show off voice lines that are boring. And sadly, this campaign has a lot of boring voice lines. Now with all that out of the way, let's move on to our final campaign. I love talking about this campaign. The Parish is the peak of Valve's environmental storytelling, and the dialogue interactions are among the best in the game. Let's start with the opening seconds of Chapter 1. As the survivors are leaving the starting area, jets can be heard flying overhead, and sometimes the survivors will say the following.
Whoa. Military's still here.
Jets. Yeah, jets mean people. I'll take that.
You don't evacuate people in fighter jets.
Now, let's move on to Chapter 2. After walking through the park, the survivors walk past a horse statue, and sometimes Nick and Ellis will have this exchange.
I wish we had a horse. I love horses.
You ever eat horse? It's tasty.
Horses are for riding, not eating, Nick.
After walking a little further, the survivors find their first military checkpoint. Dead bodies are seen everywhere, and sometimes the survivors will have this dialogue interaction.
These ain't zombies. Somebody's been shooting people.
Somebody? Christ, Coach, you know who did this.
I don't know shit. We're gonna keep moving.
I don't think the military had a choice. Some people were making some tough choices here.
Many civilians were killed in New Orleans, but we can confirm that the military was able to successfully evacuate some survivors. We'll get to that later on. For now, let's move on to the sewers in Chapter 3. Before jumping in, sometimes you'll get this line from Nick.
I am not climbing into... screw it, let's go.
Once the survivors get out of the sewer, they find themselves surrounded by alarm cars, and sometimes Coach will say this to the other survivors.
Move careful. Watch your fire, and we'll be just fine.
If multiple alarm cars are shot during this segment, the survivors, instead of focusing and hunkering down, instead decide to argue like children.
Shit! I'm sorry, my bad!
How many of these cars are you gonna shoot?
Sorry.
Are you shooting the cars on purpose?
All right, I can shoot a car too.
If you want to start shooting cars, let's shoot cars.
Well, fine then. There, I'll shoot a damn car.
Would you stop shooting the goddamn cars?
Once you make it past the alarm cars, the survivors witness a bridge being bombed right in front of them. Even in the heat of the moment, Nick makes a smart observation.
They're blowing this bridge to cover a retreat. If we want to go with them, we better hurry.
And after jumping down to the graveyard, you'll sometimes get this back and forth between Nick and Ellis.
Oh man, I hope we don't see any ghosts.
Ellis, you're carrying like 10 different guns.
You can't shoot a ghost, Nick. I mean, shit, it ain't rocket science, man.
Now, let's move on to the bridge. When you walk onto the bridge for the first time, two soldiers can be heard talking over the radio. The subtitles refer to these two soldiers as Papa Gator and Rescue 7. If you don't touch the radio and let the soldiers talk, their conversation goes something like this.
Rescue 7, this is Papa Gator. Over.
This is Rescue 7, over.
Rescue 7, what is your repair status? Over.
Repair ETA is 10 minutes, over.
Copy that. All lambs extracted. Last buzzard starts running in 15 minutes. Copy that. Over.
Roger, Papa Gator, 15 minutes. Be advised, we have seen flashes on the west bank. Visually confirm West Bank is clear. Over.
West Bank is clear, Rescue 7. Sector is clear. Over.
Negative. We are seeing something. Over.
Rescue 7, are you, seeing Whiskey Delta or friendly? Over. Whiskey Delta or friendly? Over.
Propagator, we're not sure. We're seeing, multiple personnel and small arms fire. What is our current ROE? Over.
Rescue 7, all lost lambs are accounted for. Targets should be considered hostile. Only prosecute targets that are a clear threat. Over.
Roger, Propagator. All personnel on floating LZ. Clear for last buzzard run. Over.
Affirmative, Rescue 7. Keep the bridge deck clear. Last buzzard run will start in 15 minutes. Out.
Here's another neat detail that you might have missed. The dialogue between the survivors and the soldiers will be different depending on when you answer the radio. If you interrupt the soldiers during their conversation, the dialogue goes something like this.
Hello?
Rescue 7. That's coming from the bridge. Bridge. Who is this?
And if you let the soldiers finish their conversation, the dialogue will instead go like this.
Stop the bombing run!
Rescue 7. That's coming from the bridge.
Last buzzard. Stand down. Stand down.
Bridge. Who is this?
Hey, there are 4 of us on the bridge.
Bridge. Are you immune?
We are not infected.
Negative, Bridge. Are you immune? Have you encountered the infected?
Encountered? Boy, I am covered in zombie blood and puke and eyeballs and 20 other parts I don't even recognize. We are immune as shit.
Bridge, we have pulled out of that sector. Your only remaining pickup is available on the other end of the bridge. Our last chopper is leaving in 10 minutes. You need to lower the span and get across the bridge. God be with you.
While we're here talking about the Parish, there's something else I wanted to point out. It has nothing to do with dialogue, but I still think it's worth showing. The voice lines I just showed confirms that the military successfully evacuated some survivors. And when you head over to the other end of the bridge, you can see the off-ramp is clogged with buses. If you go back to Chapter 5 of Dark Carnival, you can find wall graffiti talking about CETA using buses to evacuate survivors, which makes perfect sense. Buses do hold a lot of people. If we're assuming these buses were full, that means hundreds, maybe even thousands of survivors were successfully evacuated out of just New Orleans, and potentially more when you take into account the rest of the country. Now, before we end off the video, here are a few more voice lines. While fighting through Chapter 5, Coach will sometimes say this iconic line.
We walked through a world of shit to get here. We are not gonna die now. We are not gonna die now.
Here are some more deleted voice lines I found while digging through the files. Apparently, during the early stages of this campaign's development, the survivors were going to be on a timer while fighting through the bridge. Here are some voice lines from Papa Gator nagging the survivors.
Rescue 7, 10 minutes to last buzzard run. Over. Rescue 7, 5 minutes to last buzzard run. Over. Rescue 7, 1 minute to last buzzard run. Over.
And with that, we can conclude the video. Dialogue is one of this game's best features. Digging through all these audio files to find the best ones was a lot of fun, and I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. I have a new idea for a series moving forward, so stick around for that. Until then, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.